Okay, so Martin, welcome to the Asentiv Art of Leverage interviews. So first of all, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Martin Wroe. I'm one of the directors at Gambit International, and we effectively, specialize in growing businesses. But where we differ from traditional consultancies, we really like to get into the pit of a business and usually take some form of, unoccupied board seat, whether that's a sales director, marketing director, or even a commercial director. That's a little bit of both, but we then try and, restructure the business from within and, give, the business any support that it really needs, whether that be, new websites, new, strategies. We can even look to help with funding growth as well through a number of our other partners. So, in want of a better word, we become this one-stop resource to grow a business.
Excellent. So why did you set up Gambit International? Because your background was more hospitality, wasn't it?
So I got involved in hospitality through another venture. Previous to that, my existing background is more in the manufacturing world.
Right. Okay.
So I used to, well, my mum and I used to have a manufacturing business, which we managed to scale up to 6.5 million, quite a profitable business.
Well done.
We were then able to dispose of that back in 2016, and that really got me absorbed into quite a large business at that point, and I then spent the next sort of 3 years in quite a large corporate organization, specializing in sort of growing businesses in a particular field of business within that organization. And I was doing an awful lot of traveling, and traveling after 3 years and being out of the country more than you're in it just wasn't for me at that point. So I basically came home and decided that I want to help people, and then how was the best way for me to help people, and that's how I ended up starting Gambit. And that's the whole focus, is to help business owners scale and give them all the resources that they need. So I was too young to retire, too much to had too much to give, and I won't say I created Gambit from boredom, but it stopped me getting bored.
Okay.
Because I think, like most people, when we all went through COVID, for me that really gave me another glimpse of what retirement potentially would look like if I didn't have purpose. So for me, Gambit gives me a real opportunity to have purpose with what I do, and try and help as many people as I possibly can, while I'm still working.
Excellent. And people think that traveling around the world working is very glamorous, but it's not, is it?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I've been to some fantastic locations, but my response is usually, I've seen a lot of airports, I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of hotels. I've sat in a lot of back of taxis getting bussed from one place to another. But that being said, I did enjoy my time away, and when I was able to, enjoy and see the sights of where I was, that was real liberating, to be perfectly honest, because it is a big wide world out there. and
Definitely.
e- and even again, when we had the manufacturing business, we were doing a lot in exports. So our factory was based out of Stockport, Hazel Grove in particular, but we were shipping stuff as far as Australia. So there was a lot of pride that came with what we were doing back then and even now.
Excellent. So what sort of clients do you like working with?
So clients that we really want to work with are the ones that are hungry to grow the business, because again, what I've certainly found since starting Gambit, which was probably it's going into its fourth year now. There's a lot of business owners out there that, with what I've referred to as being great technicians who, been really good at something, whether that's sales, marketing, something, and then they go to becoming a business owner, and then it's a whole different ball game. In
Yes.
what they used to know and be really good at is now only sort of 10-15% of what they actually have to do. So, we basically try and look at working with businesses that really want to scale, that are hungry, and have really got the commitment to be able to sort of scale as well. Because unfortunately, we do come across people that say they want to grow a business, but they don't actually, really want to, or their actions don't really, want to. And sometimes that can be, down to people's mindset, whether they've gone through a bad period. So, we basically look at trying to help. And, if it's not with us directly because of what we do, we've got a number of, different referral partners which we have that can potentially help. Because again, sometimes people say they want or need some form of, scaling help, but the reality is they might need, a part-time financial director, to come in and look at the business and actually really help streamline the cash flow. I'm all about, connecting people. That's what and when people say really, what's your job? My big thing is to find, like a way to help and connect people to do, what needs to be done when it needs to happen.
Yeah, I think the people's network's very important, and certainly underutilized. A lot of people don't even realize they've got a support network out there.
Absolutely.
And they've got people who'd love to help them in the business, but they either never ask for us at one point. So what sort of results do you deliver for your clients? What do they get from working with you?
Well, ultimately, what we try and do is put them on on a 12-month program to scale the business. And some typical people that we've worked with and working with now is, we currently working with a technology business to help professionalize their business.
Okay.
And when we say professionalize their business, it doesn't mean they're unprofessional, but they've got a real opportunity within, what it is that they're, delivering. But we've helped restructure the business to and effectively turn it into, a technology-based business as opposed to a service-based business that it was before. We've helped build the infrastructure that goes around that in terms of, websites and the digital assets that go with it. And now we've got them to a point where they've gone, oh, brilliant, we've got all of this. Now we can go and look at getting some funding. So we now help them get some funding. So that's one typical type of circumstance. Another client that we work with is based within the property sector. They've got a number of different developments that they've done previously, but they need to develop something that, really showcases what it is that, they've done previously. So ultimately what we try and do, is grow a business, holistically. And in terms of results, what we want from the end, people throw around, lots of big numbers like, 10 times profit and all of these things. But, it then has to be sustainable growth. So I always say if we can double someone's profit within 12 months, they've done a really great thing. But again, it's, the economies of scale. If you're doing 100,000 in profit and you make 200,000, that's quite a big leap. If you're doing, 10 million and want to do 20 million within 12 months, that's quite, a ginormous leap. So, it does have to be within, a reason. But, I think ultimately what we try and deliver is, that sustainable growth. And so the business is starting to, really fire over the next 12 months. So they can then go into the next 12 months with, a real targeted and strategic plan, as opposed to, again, and I talk from, what I used to do until I learned better was, we'll put a plan together for this year rather than putting, having an idea of where we want to be in 5 years, but actually really focusing on where we want to be in 3, but then really driving the results over the next 12 months, because people talk about these 3, 5 and 10 years plans, but the reality is what really happens is what we do over next week, next month, next quarter, next 6 months, next year, or the rest of the year. So it's at that point that we always keep referring to these sort of plans and strategies to ensure that we keep people on point, because again, even through conversations, we can all tend to sway and differ, and if you've not got someone that's helped guiding you back onto the enlightened path, as they say, you can go down on some real tangents that can lose a lot.
Okay. What's really inspiring about what you do, Martin?
Me, I love the end result. As I said, for me, it is about the people. It's about people building relationships, and if I can help someone improve that, some of the real fulfillment that I try and do, and I talk from that perspective of I started out in a consultancy role, where I was just advising, and for me personally, that wasn't something that I found really truly fulfilling. It was great doing the advisory piece, but what I really preferred was to actually sit and get in the pit with people and fight alongside them, because that's where my true heart really lies.
Okay, so moving forward,
is to have that. Again, used to love The Godfather.
So moving forward, what's most exciting about 2023 for you?
Well, opportunity, and there's lots of talk about recession, energy crisis, and it feels like the apocalypse is on us at the moment. But when I talk about my own experiences, is that when the last big recession really hit, we actually doubled the turnover of our business through that recession. So we went from just over £1 million to nearly 2.5 million during a recession. So we put a lot in terms of turnover, because while everyone else is scaling back, there's some real opportunities that come along with that. And it's not for the faint-hearted, to be perfectly honest. And we made some very brave and bold decisions when we were going through that process. But when there's adversity, there's always opportunity to prosper. And if everything's good all the time and everyone's doing really well, sadly, I don't think at any point in life that that has ever really happened. There's always some form of adversity, and the ones that really prosper are the ones that really want to get out there and make a real difference. And again, my love really and passion really comes down to sales and marketing, to be perfectly honest. And it's not always the best product or the best business that that wins. It's the most well known.
Yes.
And I always use Apple as an example. Some people have shouted at me. I mean, I'm a big Apple fan, by the way. But when someone says to me, what have you got? I've got an iPhone and a Mac, an iPad, but are they the best products on the market? No, but they're some of the most desirable because of the way they've marketed them.
Yes.
They're very sleek, they're user friendly, and that's ultimately why I like them, is because it's a desirable product. I like how they work for me, but I know there's better stuff out there, but I've been using them for that long now. I'm hooked. It's too difficult to change.
It's very similar to Harley Davidson. That's definitely not the most well-built bike in the world, but it's the name that everybody knows. and aspires to having one.
Absolutely, and God, wouldn't that be nice? Going somewhere warm on a Harley Davidson, particularly on a day like this.
Yes, definitely. If you could recommend any business book that you think a business owner should read, what would that be?
Well, I've actually got two, if I can
Okay,
give two. One of my big inspirations was The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss.
right, I've heard of
And
it.
that's a great book, and in a very, very sort of short way, that's a great way for business owners to get a mindset of growing a business where they become less active in it, and if they want to, but ultimately what it tries to do is give framework to give business owners choice. They might choose to want to work 80 hours a week, but isn't that nice when you've got an option to choose to work 80 hours a week or 60 hours a week, as opposed to I have to do that work because otherwise the business doesn't survive. And then there's another book that again I was really inspired by, called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek.
Right,
Um, and within that, he does talk about business being this infinite game. A finite game is like a game of football. There's two teams, there's a known set of rules, and they're each trying to win. But actually, business is playing the infinite game because we can't really win. There is a way and say that we've, achieved something, but ultimately it's a game that keeps on getting played. And what we really want to do is to have a business that goes on after us for generations. I mean, the business that ended up acquiring our company, I was there when they had their 100-year celebration. So they built a business that had been going for 100 years, that is now 107 years old, and going strong. So people that are quite inspired to want to build a brand that survives, or a business that survives, I think they would be, there's not many better books than that one, to be perfectly honest.
okay. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they're interested in finding out more about what you do?
I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so you can
Yes.
find my profile on LinkedIn, Martin Wroe, Gambit International. You can also drop me an email, which is hello@gambit.international. So we monitor that email address, and like I say, it's a little bit like our bat signal line. So if someone drops us an email into there, we know someone that really needs some help and assistance, and so we're more than happy to help do that with them.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for coming on the Art of Leverage interview. And I'm sure some people will be in touch.